Welcome everybody to episode 20 of Meet with Cheese Metaverse Interviews. I'm your host, LeDrop WithCheese, coming to you from the Metaverse as usual. Today, I have an awesome guest, someone that I met at an event locally here in Milwaukee. He is the founder of Firebird Media. He also created NFT MKE and is all up in Web3. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Ian McCullough. Thank you so much for coming today, Ian.
Hey, thanks, Joey, man. I appreciate it. I love the new style. You got the LCDs, right? Or those LEDs.
Yeah, people remember these. I go to conferences often and they're like, hey, light up glasses. I remember you. What's your name again? Hey, at least you remember the glasses,
No, that's good. You got to, that's always good in the big crowd of so many people. But any way you can stand out is a good way.
Yeah, it's a good icebreaker too. People are like, oh, those are cool. Where'd you get those? And then I usually will type in their name because an app is attached to them. So I can put in any words. So on Thursday for your meetup, we got to put NFTMKE on those and get a picture of you with them on.
Dude, that'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great idea.
You had a big week and, I kind of want you to tell us a little bit about your background and tell us what you just launched out into the world. So how did you end up, what were you doing before and how did you end up in Web3?
Sure, man. Well, I started in Web 1, but I'm not that old. I'm not like Web 0, but like I'm a millennial, born in 1991. I grew up with the internet. But I do remember before. So I'm one of the like right on the cusp. I remember not having phones, not being able to dial up, not being able to do any of that stuff. But it was right when I was around, but I was very little. So maybe, I think it was around maybe third grade or fourth grade was when I was really, on the internet probably every day. When no one was using the phone, right? If you remember that.
Yes, dial up.
There's some Gen Z people that are like, what are you talking about? Phones have anything to do with this? But so I started, my dad was a computer science guy. He studied computer science. And he had some, programming friends, and he would always bring me, to interact with them. And this guy that worked for Microsoft, and, and he'd give me some good video games. Like one time he bought Doom 2, which blew my mind, and everything and it would serve me later. And, and Doom 2 is definitely a thread that goes all the way to even today with like the impact of those types of software. But I was exposed to programming really early. I remember when I got a bunch of my friends and we all started mapping out what a video game would be like if we all made a video game together, even though we knew nothing about programming. But it was something that, was just so part of my childhood, playing Game Boys, playing, using technology, going on the internet, playing with my friends with computers and stuff. So I was very much involved in the internet culture and internet itself. And so Web3, I think now is just the culmination of all these previous iterations of the internet that are now, they're coming together into a new generation with new people and new ideas, and some of the same old ideas that have stood the test of time, and, and things. But so that's one part of what makes me tick from an early age where I came from. But the other part is, well, before I get to the other part, I did end up studying computer engineering as well in my undergrad here in Milwaukee at Marquette. So I ended up kind of going through that path and being like, all right, let me learn this stuff. This seems interesting. I know this is going to be a valuable skill set and a valuable mindset to be an engineer for just life in general. But the other side of the coin for me is the music side. So I'm also a musician. I've been composing and recording and making music for now 16 years. I've been releasing an album every year on April 27th since 2006. And each one of those is an open source album with open licensing, and these paradigms of licensing and how you treat intellectual property was very much influenced by the other side of the coin, by me being part of internet culture, being part of understanding these new ways of approaching economics and although at the time I had no idea what the economic implications or anything, but economics and society and all these things that we know the internet can touch now, like a lot of these paradigms have been changing through technology since early on. And so yeah, I've been, now full-time musician for about 6 or 7 years now. I ended up studying music and media technology at Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland for a couple of years, went to pivot to become a musician, did that, came back to Milwaukee where I'm from, and then really just went at it like hard, nothing else, no software, no, just music. And then now after, kind of grinding that gear, now bringing back in more the technology focus right around the same time of this big wave of Web3 and stuff. I think I'm not unique in that case. I think everyone is, starting to ride this new wave and understand the implications of these technologies, starting to get at a new precipice, of where we're starting to see adoption happen, and people are starting to see the forest through the trees with what could happen in the next 10 years or so. So yeah, that's pretty much the two sides of what I am. The music side comes from my mother. She's one of 17 children. She was my grandfather was an orphan, and he was raised by gypsies. He'd play fiddle growing up, just playing the hits, trying to make some bread. And then he went to an orphanage, and then ended up going into a seminary. So he was very devout Catholic. And then when he met my grandma, he's like, I think God's plan is for me to have 17 kids instead of no kids. And so then he met my grandma, and then and she's still kicking. But yeah, he was able to put them through all private schools. Back in the day, it was a little cheaper than it is now, but private schools, just from the money that they made touring around. They're the largest nuclear American family band in history. And so that, it was really no question for me about music. When I was 3 years old, I started playing the piano. My older sister and my mom started, she knew how to play the music stuff, and they toured around when she was a kid. But she wasn't super interested in the music as much. There was a lot of like family trauma and history and drama and all this stuff. And she was in it. She became the band manager, so she started to get involved with the music business a little bit in one way or another. So those are the two sides of what has culminated now into Firebird Media, that just announcing this new business that I'm forming with a co-founder in Cape Town, South Africa, Blackbird. And it's really just the music and technology coming together. And music, I think, is really the common denominator in all media now, for more or less. All multimedia is music, touches everything. Sound recordings and music. Obviously, there's plenty of stuff that's that doesn't have music, but it really is the most complex part of media too. It has and part of why I really believe in what we're building is because it is so complex. And as I've been a musician now over these past 15 years and 16 years, and really engaging in the music business and the music scene, touring around the country and around the world, like there's so many barriers of entry for a lot of people to be able to utilize and exploit their intellectual property that they own to the fullest potential.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you saw a need as a musician and combined your two strengths in life to be the superpower, Superman in Web3, and now Firebird Media. Essentially, it's an open source, decentralized protocol for tracking, securing creations, derivatives, royalties, and licensing. So what are like some of the features that you have for Firebird Media?
Yeah, so one of the main features that I'm most excited about is the licensing aspect of things. And I started the licensing business in a licensing business called Free Music Land that now is going to be absorbed into the Firebird protocol. over the next year or so, once we start to release products and start to build these things out. We're still at the very early stages, of building this in our first feature that we're building out is through this product called the STEM Mixer, and that feature is licensing, and it's really to keep track of everyone's ownership. So like if you're a musician or you're a media creator and you can mint an NFT right now, a lot of times there's a lot of confusion as to who owns what are you allowed to do with this NFT, what are the rights of usage that is allowed, what can people even do with it. So before we even get to licensing, you have to solve that problem. And so that's our main focus now, is to do some token standards and metadata standards for how music and media will be treated specifically. So, we're very media and music focused. And so once we be able to define these things out through metadata, through things in Cardano, like called reference scripts, and ways that that different NFTs can interact with each other, has kind of opened a whole new way for us to track and monitor and secure people's intellectual property. And then on top of that is a licensing engine. So my co-founder Blackbird is also announcing a minting engine that he's been built called Drop Shop. And so that'll be a lot of the foundation as to how we're going to be able to mint a lot of the stuff that we're doing. It's how we got the NFTs minted for the NFT MKE NFTs that were handed out as proof of attendance for everyone. Is through his minting engine, and we'll be able to utilize that in order to then parameterize licensing. So if you have you have a song, you can put it on into our protocol and easily be able to type in some parameters in order to let the whole world know, okay, this is how you're going to use my music. A lot of it's inspired by the Creative Commons movement. As a big we'll definitely be implementing Creative Commons as an easy way for people to do public domain if they want to do, or just an attribution if they want people to be able to just give attribution. But the more complex things is when we start to get into specific types of licenses. And, with the music industry, like I mentioned before, it's very complex. Like there's 2 different types of music rights, and each one of those has anywhere from 4 to 10 different royalties or rights, different sub rights, you could think of it as. And it all depends on which medium you're playing it on or how it's used. And there's so many different fragmented organizations that are kind of capturing some of this data in really inefficient ways, with considering the types of technology that are coming around the door. So yeah, the licensing is, I think, a huge aspect of things that are missing, whether that's for your image, your visual work, or your audio work. And so those licenses will be able to cover both of those types of mediums. But then once we can do that, we're actually then having a small cohort of musicians and artists that are going to be coming on and doing our closed beta, where then we're going to actually be really rigorously testing this protocol and seeing how these people can interact and how they can use our product, the STEM Mixer, in order to do then collaboration and derivative works. And so that to me, I think, is really the more exciting. Licensing, I love talking about licensing, but it's not as sexy, I don't think, and I think it's so important. But the real sexy part of it is the collaborative and derivative tracking, I think, because now we see, there's a derivative that, they feel like there's a new derivative project every week. And sometimes they can, I don't see why the project that created itself, like, that's allowing derivatives, there's nothing that they can, they can't be upset if someone's making a whole derivative work but then they think, oh, well, I'll just give this for free because this is the new ethos. But there's no actual rights of usage that have been defined. There haven't been this, because people like to think, oh, well, you can use it for free. And this is what a lot of people do, is that you can use it for free until you get to this amount of income from exploiting this. And so that is where it gets to, when we're dealing with compliance with these types of things, good luck. Like if you're this is kind of the what's currently your options is good luck. I hope you have a bunch of money to hire some lawyers, and good luck going through years of litigation to try and solve this with all its crypto wallets, and people don't even know what crypto is. You can find a jury that's going to understand that. So it's better to avoid that situation. Like we, at Firebird Media, like we're really trying to incentivize people to work together and incentivize commons driven production. It's actually like there should be no reason why a person couldn't do a derivative, and if their success should be also the success of the original creator. And this could, you might think of this in terms of profile pics across chain. All of a sudden there's lazy monkeys, and there's chilled Kongs, and there's Bored Apes, and there's all these things that are, that might be more, maybe not the best example, but a good example could be, I have a song that I've written and you're making a remix of it. That's a derivative work as well. And so when we can track these things and know who owns what and who's doing derivatives of what, we can kind of unleash a whole new collaborative spirit and value in the communities, which I think is what Web3 is all about. And so, but until we have these tools, it's kind of just talk like now, and hope and trust, which is good. Trust is super important, but it's really difficult a lot of times to trust people. And that's, what Web3 is trying to solve, these trustless systems where it's all about incentivizing the behaviors positively in order for people to work together and do, like I said, community and collaboration driven economies, which is really what's happening. And so being able to manage that stuff and be able to do these proofs of concept with our stem mixer and test out this minting engine, and with also keeping track of things and working on verification stuff and having a licensing engine on top of it all, is something that I think just gives bare minimum tools for people that have had bare minimum for people in the industry that have more resources and tools, and they have lawyers, and they have these teams that can negotiate and deal, and that have experience with this. But the part of Web3 is also inclusion and making sure that everyone has access to these tools, right? Like just like in DeFi protocols have access, now everyone has access to lend against their assets or borrow against their assets or whatever it may be. That's something only billionaires had not that long ago. And now it's going down into everywhere. So this, to me, the Firebird protocol is kind of just a media equivalent of that, where now media creators can have access to things where they don't have to rely on these centralized systems in order to collaborate, and they don't have to rely on gatekeepers and things. And it's going to take a lot of work and an effort to do it, but I know there is a huge desire and hunger amongst everyone, myself included, as part of why I wake up every day excited to be building these things and excited to be working with people on, because this is totally, what I was born to do. It's born to make music and share it and share that knowledge of what we can do with technology in order to collaborate and to share, and not just share value, but increase the value amongst the community as a whole. That's really like how I see communities when they collaborate together. It's when people can work modularly and granularly, where it's like, okay, you do this part of this song, or you do this part of the song, or someone's making a derivative or whatever it is. All these people can work in simultaneously in an asynchronous fashion, and can go a lot faster then too. So culture can grow and accelerate alongside the technology.
Wow, that's great. Well, I'm glad you're exactly where you should be, because it sounds like there are so many moving parts to this, and you've done your research and you're trying to amplify value for musicians in Web3, which is, to me, it sounds like every musician should probably start on your platform and make sure that their licensing is in order and everything's on the blockchain the right way for them to succeed long term. So it's amazing what you're doing. So as a musician, when do you think I would be able to upload music to your platform and leverage all these tools and knowledge?
Yeah, so what you can do now is just join the, right now, currently, all we have is an email list. You can go to firebirdmedia.io, and there would be a way to just sign up there, and you can shoot us an email, or hop on either, or even better, you can DM us on Twitter, or add us at Twitter, or join our Discord. That's right now we're just gathering interested parties because we're still doing our Genesis drop, and this is my music, and so we're releasing these NFTs to showcase the first demo and iteration of our product and see what can happen. Because I've worked with a great artist named Hymn of Dreams, a visual artist, and so we're doing, we have our own. We're basically testing it through my 16th album, Firebird, hence the name Firebird Protocol, kind of inspired by this album. And so a musician themselves, like currently, by the end of the year, we're going to be picking. By the end of the year, we're going to be picking select people in order to test this out, because we got to do it right. There's a lot of things in order that we need to build and need to test and verify, and like to actually get this protocol to be in a position where it can scale and be usable to a large amount of people. We also need third-party auditing, which is a pretty penny. So like, we're starting off with just these NFTs of my music in order to essentially raise some funds, and be able to showcase the usage of the STEM mixer, so we can then build out part of this next stage of our roadmap until we get to the point where we can announce our tokenomics and be able to have our own governance tokens and pools for artists to be able to pull upon, have our own DAO that can facilitate media creation and all these types of things. Lots of things that could be done, and that's part of those are all part of our roadmap. You can see. So right now it's just kind of a coming soon, but I would highly recommend joining the Discord, or just giving a reply or a DM to the Twitter, and we can definitely talk, because part of building community is making sure everyone's voice is heard, and make sure that, because there's, it's hard to, basically you have to start a little centralized when you start building these things out, and every, people that are in the blockchain technology and build on them, they know you can't just whip up a decentralized thing out of nowhere. It takes many users in order for anything to even become decentralized, as well as implementing protocols is the same way. The only reason we're speaking and being able to communicate over TCP/IP, which is just transport control protocol and internet protocol, there's multiple protocols that are being used right now in order for us to even have this communication. And the only reason that they're here is because many people have adopted them. They became, standard, and they were adopted by these large groups of people that can check each other's homework and make sure, okay, no, this is right. And so that's something in the long term, that we're striving for, is to become something that can set a new standard for collaborating on chain and licensing on chain and keeping track of derivatives on chain and all these different types of things. But yeah, Discord and Twitter are the best spots now.
Yes. So if you're watching this and you're a musician and you want your music on the blockchain and you're not sure about it, absolutely join this community. CULLAH is an amazing resource. He's very knowledgeable about music as well as blockchain. And I'm just glad that we're able to talk, and hopefully we'll get some new, really good people. I know some musician friends that, have won Grammys that I'm going to send your way. I think they'd be a great asset, and they're into blockchain. So we'll have to collaborate later and send some people your way. But yeah, Firebird Media, I'm so pumped for it, man. However I can help promote it, I'm there, because this is something that all musicians are going to need, whether they realize it or not. And they're in blockchain already, selling their music as NFTs without any copyright or licensing or derivatives, So it's a great what you're doing, but you're a busy guy. You have a big event this week. You created NFT MKE, which is a meetup for the Milwaukee people interested in blockchain. So tell us about your upcoming event.
Yeah, well, happy to have met you at one of the NFT MKEs. I think it was last month, right? It's only been a month. Can you believe that? Right? It's only been a month. Yeah, it's crazy. I know. I feel like we've already had a whole lifetime together. No, I think, yeah. So Thursday, we're just having our third meetup, and we do have a proof of attendance protocol that we've implemented where if you show up, you can get a NFT. You got the first one, we got another one for you. But if you come for the first time, you're going to get the first one. And until we run out of those. And yeah, if you're in the greater Milwaukee area, come through on Thursday at 6:30. It's Thursday, the September 15th at Art Bar in Riverwest. And you can just sign up a RSVP at our Eventbrite, or just go to NFTMKE.io, and that'll tell you everything. We also do have a couple of events planned for Milwaukee Tech Week next month. I'm also interviewing Carl Governor, a former CIO of Northwestern Mutual, the tallest building in Milwaukee. He was there for 17 years. They had a whole new, they basically had a whole new shift in management and everything. And he was like, and it was a good time to leave after 17 years, is a long time. Now he's doing he's doing a startup for lending and financing for construction, I believe, for sole proprietor construction workers. And I believe I'm probably butchering it. It's called Struction, but he's a big orange pill, and he loves Bitcoin, and I like to consider him he's basically the Michael Saylor of Milwaukee. Big Bitcoin advocate. He's maybe not as as eccentric maybe, but he's a really nice guy and really knowledgeable. Building, has been in Bitcoin and finance for, longer than I've been alive. At least finance. But yeah, the NFT MKE, we got lots of stuff planned for now, for Thursday, and for next month, and into the future, and looking forward to seeing you there again.
Yeah, definitely. I won't get another card, but I just want to show everyone.
Hell yeah.
I like the picture. It's like you're very serious in it, and then when I meet you, I'm like, oh my god, this guy's a genius, and he's super cool, laid back, But I love the business card. When did you transition from Ian McCullough to just CULLAH?
Yeah, so originally, that's a good question. I was originally MC CULLAH in 2007. So I say I've been doing it since 2006. I've really been making music from 2003, but I was originally the Ian McCullough Experience, and then I was like Alpha Monkey on for a little bit, and then I came to MC CULLAH in 2007. Was my first CD that I burned and just handed out to people in my school on my birthday, and that's where that whole tradition started. Because back in the day, before Facebook and digital calendars and things, people just had to know it was your birthday, or they would hear through the grapevine that it was your birthday, and people would have to. They would at school. They would say, "Oh, happy birthday," And so you'd get the most attention at school when it was your birthday. So I figured, well, this is perfect time to shill my music, And so people would say, "Oh, happy birthday," and then I'd pull out one, like, here's the CD, and they'd be like, "Oh, okay." And so I figured if I had their attention, it was a good time to do it. And then it became something deeper and bigger, where it became, oh, now this is like a reflection of my own creation, and I'm going to create on the day of my creation. And became, as things happen, and really, surrendering to the reality of our physical world and the movements of the cosmos of every year, every time the earth rotates, all those revolves around the sun and all those types of things. It's good motivation. And then it was 2015, I believe, is when I dropped the MC and just became CULLAH. And if anyone knows anything about Irish surnames or knows anything about Irish language or whatever it might be, not that many people that know about the Irish language, but Mick means son of. So CULLAH kind of became this persona of my forefathers, the ancestors, the people that have existed in a way where it allowed for me to exist, and to start to kind of appreciate a little bit more my own filial piety, and try to encapsulate that and carry on that name, because I do think it's important in my principles in life, to stay true to a name, and and it's something that people can remember you by, and something that can be in history books, and something that, even if it's just on CDs, whatever it might be, my family gets a kick out of it too. They call me CULLAH now too, which is weird, where it's just like we're all CULLAH.
Yes, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I do have some Irish heritage as well. I was adopted, but I was raised by an Irish Catholic guy. So I went to Irish, or basically Catholic schools my whole life, grade school, high school, even DePaul University. There was no other option, right? But I got a couple of Gaelic words for you. It's called the Fleadh Cheoil. It's the largest independent music fest, traveling musicians once a year, every couple of years. It was in my hometown of Letterkenny, but we were talking about that last time. Are you planning on getting over for that next year?
I wrote that down. I shared it with my family. They were very excited about it. So we gotta do we'll do a tour, do an Irish tour and stop off at Letterkenny or wherever it might be. A lot of good. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the country over there in the Southwest. So it's like, although Letterkenny is kind of in the middle South, right? Whatever. But that's a great word. I was just there's some great ones. Keed Meal de Falcha, or Keed Meal de Falcha, right? A million welcomes, or the Sláinte, right? Is the good one. Everyone knows that one. There's a lot of good ones. I don't know. I don't speak Irish, but I was over there, and I was taught a few things. And what was it? What high school did you go to in Chicago?
Gordon Tech.
Gordon. Okay. Yeah. Cause I went to college with a bunch of Chicago guys, and they went to one. What's the one with is it St. Patrick? There's one that's like I don't know.
St. Patrick. Yeah. It was, they were part of the Irish Catholic, or the Catholic League. So we competed against them in sports.
Yeah. Yeah. It might've been, I think there's a little more people than the Catholic schools that I grew up in, very small things in the suburbs. And, but there was a good, it got pretty competitive, like every nice little community is great. Yeah. St. Patrick, I had a roommate and some friends that went to St. Patrick in Chicago, and same way. Actually, I have a good friend who was also adopted by an Irish, he was a twin, and adopted by an Irish family in the South Side, and they were just all construction workers and cops and everything for generations. And he's, such a good dude. Good family, good people,
Yeah, and Ireland's catching up with Web3 a little bit. I do know some pretty big builders in Ireland that are doing things that, I can't believe how much they're building right now. So it's great to see that country kind of embracing that tech. But one question I always like to ask my guests, like, in your words, what is the metaverse, and how do you see it affecting humans in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. Metaverse is it's a buzzword doesn't really have, like a lot of terms in Web3, they're kind of becoming defined in real time. And I think the definition that I have for metaverse is, maybe there might be two definitions I have. I don't know if that's cheating, but the first definition I have, which I think is a more broad term, which I think is what people refer to it more now, or maybe it's more applicable, I think now, is really what we're doing right now is metaverse. Any digital interaction with other people through the usage of technology, I think, is metaverse. It's because metaverse requires metadata, and meta. I think that's really where meta means the things in between, like another layer, like an encapsulation of what things are. So like in a database, a metadata is really just a data about data. So that's metaverse is like what, a universe in a universe. And so I think my first definition would be, any digital interaction between humans that can mirror something that is in our physical reality. The second definition, I think, is what maybe more people envision, and maybe I'm wrong. I would be interested to hear your answer. But that one, the second definition, I think, is really the full on either AR, VR, 3D world where you can experience, you can roam around in, you can play in, and you can do business in, you can do lots of different, you can basically do a lot. What I think I don't know, I guess it's really everything about definition one, but more encapsulated into a specific decentralized engine or two that might be able to, interact with 3D or AV VR or AR VR.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's like the all-encompassing digital landscape and all the interactions, everything we're talking about. But so the definition I always revert to is on Wikipedia, and one of my buddies is Will Burns. He wrote the modern definition of the metaverse back in like 2007. And it's kind of what we just said, you and I, it's the all-encompassing digital interactions, and it includes video games, even Doom 2, you were going into a metaverse, to play. So one of the things I'm really excited about in the future, though, is augmented reality. So virtual reality to me is like you're escaping the real world. You're going somewhere else, whereas augmented reality is what you said earlier. It's like amplifying value. So anyone with a smartphone can use an AR app and see what kind of tree is growing, and what kind of car is that just drove by, and it can pop up. So it amplifies our actual real world, and that's the future of that is what I'm most excited about. But eventually I think everyone's going to be involved with blockchain technology, whether they realize it or not. And I think that's how we're going to get to mass adoption, is they're not realizing they're buying NFTs anymore. They're just digital collectible, So yeah, it's a great time to be a part of this. And I feel like the community is awesome. How is the NFT blockchain community affected you so far, treated you? How would you say we all are?
I mean, everyone is so, I think maybe now too, because it's a bear market, everyone is just so happy and excited. I feel like that's really what it is. Everyone's anticipating and exciting. Everyone likes to be a part. I think likes to be part of something new and something where they can have a stake in changing the world, right? And that's kind of what the whole decentralized value proposition to people is. It's like, no, we all have value. We all can contribute, and we just, and I think the number one thing why I think people are excited about it is in general, and I think it speaks to the kind of the culture and the zeitgeist of our time, is people have real genuine hope for solutions. And I think that is something that has been missing from social media, from or at least exacerbated. It's been exacerbated where people don't trust the governments, they don't trust the large organizations, they don't even trust the media anymore. They don't trust, sometimes they won't trust another person because they're wearing a certain, they're flying a certain flag, or they're a different party, or they're in a different neighborhood, or they have a different lifestyle, or whatever it might be. But they're your countrymen, and they're your neighbor, and they're, and I think and there's no, most people have more in common than that. So I think the value proposition of being able to bring back trust into institutions, being able to bring back trust into humans in a decentralized way, I think that's part of maybe what drives that excitement and hope. I know there's a lot of monetary hope people have too with the markets and stuff, especially in DeFi and all these things. But when it comes down to like the people that are just in it for the culture, or the people that are in it for investing, or the people that it's really touching so many parts of the, like you said, a broader landscape, right? Digital landscape. It's now going to it's touching everything. And so, like you said, people are going to like it, whether they're going to use it, whether they know it or not. And I think the people that are understanding that now are coming together and doing and experiencing that in real time. I think that allows people to make these new communities really quickly. And I think that's what humans are programmed for, is smaller tribes. In the Irish, it would be the clans, right? Clan McCullough, or Clan Dunn. whatever it might be. Like this is how most humans have lived pre-civilization, right? Like we've lived in these small tribes, and when we look at a big city center, you see centralization. That's the only way you could get to that level. How the hell are we going to distribute water and electricity and all these things? You got to create some sort of centralized power in order to make that happen. But now, or at least that's what has been the case for so long. But now with decentralization, I think people start seeing that value proposition. They start seeing like, oh, and I don't know, that's what gives me hope. And maybe I'm just projecting on other people, but like I'm a technologist and a solutionist. I love first principles analysis, and I love seeing with my background in engineering, I love seeing problems in front of me and looking at the different types of solutions and how elegant they are. I think blockchain and a lot of Web3 solutions that are sticking around for the long run are just really quite elegant pieces of code. Like talking about Doom 2, the architect of that Doom 2, the architect John Carmack, he had a great conversation with Lex Friedman recently on his podcast, and he said that the artificial intelligence, the actual consciousness, or AGI, the thing that people are looking for, he says it's probably going to be one guy writing anywhere from 10 to 100,000 lines of code, and that's going to be it. Like that's all it will take in order to get there. But it's when these paradigms shift and the tools that people can utilize in order for that code to execute correctly, now we're starting to see that point. And so when people can have that much of an effect, when people are seeing that they can have a voice, I think that's what gets them excited about it.
Yeah, definitely. And these conferences are super exciting because, like you said, our community, we're all very excited. We understand that we're building for future generations right now. Like your platform, Firebird Media, everyone needs to go to firebirdmedia.io, follow them on Twitter, join their Discord. But I can see that being something, or like the go-to thing, if you're ever going to be putting your music on a blockchain, you're using your Firebird Media platform, for generations, which is really exciting. And I agree. But I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. This has been really insightful for the viewers. I love your perspective on everything. You're quite a visionary, and I'll see you on Thursday at NFTMKE. Everyone come join us if you're in the Milwaukee area. And yeah, thank you again so much, CULLAH. I appreciate you.
Hey man, this is really a pleasure. Thanks for keeping on doing all these video chats and releasing them out into the metaverse. I've been watching a few other, you have very, very interesting people on. So I'm totally honored to be a part of this conversation and to be up there with all those other great names. So yeah, looking forward to seeing you on Thursday, man. Take it easy.
Awesome. Yes. Have a good one. Thank you.